NCRP Productions presents Wrath and Glory, The Price of Water, Part 1.
Hello and welcome. This is Josh. Today we'll be playing Wrath and Glory's module of Reign and Mercy. So I'll be your GM today, and we'll start by going around the table introducing our players with Dave to my left.
Hello everyone, my name is Dave, and I'm going to be playing the Space Marine Scout, Octavian.
Hey everyone, it's Barry. I am running the Archetype Rogue Trader. I am running Abbasi, Grayling the 6th.
Hey everybody, this is Pedro. I am playing a Sister of Battle named Constantina.
Hi, it's Sequoia, and I'm playing a Scitaris named Delta Signus 45.
Scitarius.
Yeah, because Scitarius sounds right. Scitaris sounds like you're half Scitari and half something else.
I am Scitarius.
So are you like machine? Is that why you have like the alphanumeric nomenclature kind of thing?
Yeah,
a model
I have
number?
yet to reach the final upgrade, but I am mostly machine at this point.
That's awesome.
So it's totally a video game for our
Great.
final upgrade.
Yeah. It's like IG-88.
And if you're going to stick with Constantina, you need to be wiry. That's the way it's got to be.
Oh gosh, okay. I gotta learn how to be wiry.
Like a contortionist?
Well, it'd be Constantina the wiry.
All right, so we find our characters. Space Marine Scout Octavius, the Abbasi, the Rogue Trader, the Sister of Battle, Constantina, and Delta Signus 45. Strapped into the seats of an Aquila lander. There's an Imperial transport craft as it's breaking out of the atmosphere over the planet Holy Enoch. Within this transport craft, which is dimly lit by candles and a flashing hololith screen, there's a lot of turbulence, and you have some basic viewports over the side, so you can see yourself sort of coming down onto this desert planet. So the planet of Holy Enoch, the fourth planet from the sun in the Gilead System, is primarily desert and mountains stretched across a thin band of continents and islands, basically around the equator of the planet. The vast majority of the planet is northern and southern oceans, and there's really high mountains dotting the landscape. So the world of Enoch is what's known as a shrine world to the Empire. These sorts of worlds are where most of the bones of their holy saints and many of their relics are laid and protected. So it's not uncommon for shrine worlds to see swaths of pilgrims visiting in the millions daily, coming to these planets to worship and to see the relics and sort of experience the closeness of the Emperor in this distant system.
Are the shrine worlds commonplace? I mean, in a system like where we are, is there only going to be one?
Usually there's at least a shrine world in a system, just to show like the saints of that system and the heroes of that system will be interned there. Yeah.
Gotcha. Do we start with one? Is the shrine world just kind of set up and then there's nothing in it and things will be enshrined?
If you were to go to an unsettled system and set up there initially, which is what happened in this system. There was a crusade that sort of conquered it and brought it into the fold of the Empire thousands of years ago. You will see the heroes of that crusade will end up on the Shrine World. That will mark the beginning of Shrine World. So it's a world that's often not useful for a lot of other purposes like agriculture or industry. And so it's in this case, one of the reasons is that it's primarily arid and saltwater.
But it's in terms of what it means to someone under the Imperial rule, basically, it's a holy site.
Yeah, it's sort of like a Mecca.
Yeah, I was saying going to Mecca.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking.
So periodically, people who follow the Imperial cult will make a pilgrimage to the site. So it's widely known that 3 years ago, when the Great Rift appeared in the Gilead System, this pilgrimage site was severed from the rest of the Imperium, meaning all of the pilgrims that had traveled to this planet to make their pilgrimage were now trapped there. And it's been 3 years since. So a population of about 2 billion on this planet has become 5 or 6 billion. And so it's massively sort of pushed to its limits in terms of resources and food and water and supplies. like many of the other planets in the Gilead system, this was a problem until a fleet or a flotilla of ships arrived through the Great Rift.
Sounds like more mischief.
So, the Great Rift is essentially a multicolored tear across the sky that's visible from any planet in the Gilead system. And this rift blocks navigators' communication with Holy Terra, which enables warp flight for spaceships. So if you can't see the Emperor's psychic light from the center of the universe, then you can't travel through the warp from one system to the next. So it's a mystery how the Rogue Trader flotilla even made it into this galaxy, and it's considered a one-way trip, so they can't go back. So when they arrived, they brought all these supplies. This is kind of recent, and they sort of rallied what was left of the system to begin to kind of put the pieces together. And so that's where we're at 3 years into the Great Rift. So Jackal Varonius has recently appeared. He's widely considered at this point to be one of the most powerful men in the system, both militaristically as well as politically. He came with a great fleet of ships, among them Abbasi's cruiser.
He's a rogue trader.
He's a rogue trader.
And Baronius is my cousin?
He's a distant cousin.
Distant cousin, okay.
So right, you've inherited your ship from your family. Your ship and your lander are both older than you. So the way that rogue traders work is their writs are generally passed down through the generations to their children, and they continue carrying that forward.
Is everyone on my ship?
Yeah, so you're piloting the ship. Abbasi is piloting the ship.
ship.
You're strapped in. It's dimly lit. And you're coming down into the surface of the planet shortly before sunrise. So it's late afternoon.
And I want to ask one more thing. Why am I lighting a ship that can traverse the universe with candles?
Well, because you don't have a lot of great other options at this point. Because
Got a busted ship.
we're in.
Apparently with no extra light bulbs?
We're in. That's a great question. But candles are often used in this galaxy, in this setting, because they're more readily available than working lights.
Much like, apparently, oxygen.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Now, you said we're on an Aquila or...
Yeah. A lander, an Imperial lander. So it's like a small...
Ship?
Yeah.
So it's a craft. So it's not like a piloted craft. It's more of a
Oh, it's piloted.
Craft.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's piloted. Abbasi's sitting in the pilot seat, and you three are strapped in, and it's like 3 of the 8 seats behind
So
him.
you're the driver.
I'm the pilot.
So
Be respectful.
You're en route from Abbasi's Imperial frigate to a landing pad in a fishing village of Morncliffe. So not 3 days ago, the 4 of you met on Jackal Varonius's flagship, where you reported on request of your respective factions. So you were sent by the Absolvers chapter of the Space Marines, Octavius. Constantina was sent by the Order of Our Martyred Lady, and Delta Signus was sent by the Forge World Avacris, which is the first world from the sun of this system.
Obviously.
I think
So it's the
Battle
Mars
Sister-
of this system.
I think the Battle Sisters Union, I'm not sure what we can and can't discuss. But just
So 3 short days ago, you were tasked with traveling to this planet, Holy Enoch, and specifically to this fishing village of Morncleft, because the local ecclesiarchy there had experienced a troubling situation with claims of some locals as claiming sainthood. And in this galaxy, a claim of a sainthood is not to be taken lightly. So, so that's something that needs to be investigated immediately, and you are charged with
purging the heresy.
making the determination and executing that determination yourself. So
Is there a determination that we should just go purge them?
you
Just
should
above all.
purge if you determine that she is indeed a false saint, or he.
Oh yeah, I guess if it's a real saint, we probably
If
don't
it's a
wanna
real
purge
saint,
the real saint.
real saints are not as uncommon as you might imagine. They do show up from time to time around, and they do tend to have the ability to perform some level of miracle.
Okay, so defined in Warhammer, a saint is somebody who
Yeah.
channels the Emperor's will and power to
Yes.
perform miracles.
Right.
So even though we're all from very different bases, what constitutes as sainthood to us would look the same.
Yeah,
We would all
because
be
you
the
would
same
have the
things.
common grounds of the imperial cult, and you would,
Okay.
so some of you may put more faith into a saint than others, but you all know how to define one.
There's a checklist of saintly hoods.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Constantina would be aware of things that other past saints have done.
I wouldn't call it a cult.
It's in the name.
Now, in this
It is in
ultimate
the
thing, when you're talking about the Emperor, any other cult, that's some heresy.
And Josh, for the game, for the Warhammer Wrath and Glory game, we're the Cubicle 7 version is what we're playing right now.
Second
we are
printing.
tier 2. So
That is
can you give us
correct.
a short, quick, what
Right.
does tier 2 mean?
So tier 1 is what you would find to be like your average guardsman level, or your one of a million humans. So that's your starting tier. So we are one tier above that. So we're sort of at a sergeant level or slightly above.
1 in 1,000.
Yeah, we're starting to see potential visions of heroism here. But
I think it's the other way around. I think if 1 in a million are saying at tier 1, we're more like 1 in 10 million.
No. Yeah,
we're going the other way. He's right. He's
right. Oh yeah, sorry.
We're
Yeah, you're
more
right.
rare,
He's right.
I think.
Right.
More rare.
Yeah. I think
So yeah,
And how
that's a
many
good way to put it.
tiers does the game
So
have in it? Is it unlimited? It's like D&D. We can be tier 300.
the game goes to tier 5, and tier 5 it represents the legends, and the greatest heroes of the universe, of the galaxy.
And is there within the game? Is there a structure for experiencing to it? So could my tier 2 character in time experience up to tier 3, then 4, then 5?
So roughly a tier is about 100 XP. So when you get to 100 XP, the group is eligible for ascension to the next tier, at which point you could take your character, you could upgrade them, or you could create a tier 2 character.
So the game itself has a lot of religious feel to it.
Yeah.
I mean, at least for what we're running. We're talking about Cult of the Emperor. We're talking
We're
about
leaning into it all. Yeah.
Saints, heretics.
I wouldn't call it a cult.
I like that our level is linked to the unit, though. I think that's a really cool feature.
Yeah.
Because it makes you think about how's everyone else evolving alongside us.
Right, and one of the cool things about Ascension is when that happens, the team kind of goes and they go back to their respective factions. They get their promotions and their new war gear and what have you, and each person sort of has the opportunity to add a little bit to their character or evolve their character. For instance, you go on a mission during Ascension, you lose your leg and you get replaced with a cyber limb. When you come back, you're actually stronger. But there's some story-based reason to explain how that happened.
Follows that. Those acts
Yeah.
of valor
So,
or what
right.
have you, right.
So yeah.
All right, so we're going to Morncleft, a fishing village, to decide whether or not is it a single person or is there a number of people?
So there's a lot of people in this village.
that are claiming sainthood.
So there's an individual that's claiming sainthood, and there is a cult that has risen around this person.
Very good.
And so that's your objective.
And this happens common enough that this isn't us being sent
Right.
on a snipe hunt.
No, you guys. I mean, you haven't heard of this recently, but this could be happening simultaneously in other areas, as far as you know.
You said we gathered on this frigate, this rogue trader frigate, just to try and understand the scale. Like these things that traverse the universe, and you go in and out of the rift. These frigates are like a massive vessel, right?
Yeah, small planet sized. I mean, these things like the rogue trader's flagship. He was born on and will probably die on.
Okay, so they're massive ships.
They're
okay.
absolutely enormous.
Full companies of Marines.
Right.
I got one other question that'll be probably pertinent to me. So you said a cult has risen around this saint. Now, if this is an actual saint, a cult around this saint, that's a bad thing? Or
Yes.
Okay. It's still a bad
well,
thing.
a cult is on its own agnostic,
Okay.
right? In this world, cult is not a bad word, right? A cult just means a group of people who share a religious belief.
Yeah.
So, if they're heretical cultists, then that's a bad thing. So if you determine that she's, pretending to be a saint, but is actually a psyker or empowered from the chaos gods or some other form of, heretic, then you will want to end her life and everybody that she's influenced.
Yes. Okay, but if it is a true saint, the cult is not necessarily a bad thing. It's because because the power from the emperor is flowing to the saint.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's an extension of the emperor.
This fishing village is, primarily openly, pro Imperial cult. I mean, the vast majority of the people you see here will be followers of the Imperial cult.
So it's like a steward, if you will,
Yeah.
almost, or like a disciple,
Yeah.
of the emperor kind of thing.
Right.
It's not so strict that like if you don't follow, our views and what we follow under the will of the emperor, then you do not. So it's not that strict, right?
Yeah, I mean, very few people are going to interfere with one another's belief systems. Like if you're a heretic, I'm not going to hunt down my neighbor who's a heretic. I'm not going to do that. That's the sister of battle's job.
Constantina's going to.
That's
like-
for the Inquisition. To
Right,
deal
like
with.
but I might inform on him if I see a sister
Okay.
nearby. I might say, hey, my neighbor's been doing some crazy stuff here.
Because if you don't,
Yeah.
that's harboring a
Right.
heretic, and
Right.
you know what? That's not good.
Right. So
Okay.
yeah, there will probably be various forms of heresy to be seen, but
I
the
sure
question
hope
is,
so.
do you want to engage in pursuing every single thing or focus on your mission? So.
If I know our gaming group, we will be doing that.
So to get back to the craft and the question about the candles, which is really really important. So this landing craft used to be very opulent and very nice and have fully working lights, and like I said, it's older than any one of you on board this craft right now. So it was passed down with the ship, and over time has fallen into disrepair because we are in sort of a dark age of technology where we don't necessarily have the capability to repair everything we use.
So there's no new technology coming.
No
out,
new technology.
and
All we can
not
do is
necessarily
recover.
people that can repair the technology we have.
Right. And so from Delta Signus' point of view, one of your most important missions as you go throughout your entire existence is to recover what's called STCs, which are basically blueprints of past technology that we've lost. So, a common objective of yours would be to investigate machinery or things that you don't know what they are to make sure they're not a lost piece of technology.
Okay, awesome. Good
Hey,
to
you
know.
guys, what's DS45 doing there with the Coke machine?
Let me in!
So it also said so much that you even will investigate your teammates' gear
Okay.
at time to kind of see if there's anything special.
We're
about
gonna
it.
be
So I think
brushing
it's-
him off.
Yeah.
Come on, knock it off.
Out of curiosity, is there tech that Delta Signus would find as heretical?
Absolutely.
And my guess is it's
Yeah.
something that's infused with chaos.
That innovation.
It doesn't have to be chaotic. It can just be insanely inefficient.
Okay.
And that's heresy.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, who designed this?
Yeah, like
What the
it's just-
fuck is this thing?
Blowing up pulleys. That's a 1 to 100. There's no way that'll work.
This is the worst can opener I've ever seen. Let's burn the village.
I don't know what the hell Windows 9
This is heresy.
but God
Tech
dang.
heresy. But one of the common threats from heresy amongst the Adeptus Mechanicus is that there's actually a dark Mechanicum, which are, Scutarii, which is how you pronounce Scutarius plurally. So
Scutarii.
they're actually bad ones that have fallen to chaos because they have discovered, heretical machinery
Like
and
French.
embraced it. So that was So that's a constant threat to those guys. So before we go any further, I just want to go back a little bit and what they have these things called objectives that sort of each character rolls at the beginning of a session, and then it gives you a small task to try to do that sort of fits your character.
Are all mine just killed a heretic?
No.
Find love.
I love.
Find love.
This
I
is
know.
now a dating sim.
I know you're a heretic. Why can't I quit you?
Not Brokeback.
All right, so I'm just gonna find these.
So does each... What are these things called? I'm sorry.
Uh,
Does each archetype have its own list of objectives?
Yes.
And then within the adventure, are there a list of objectives, or within the rule book?
It's
there's
just
a list of objectives?
it's one way to earn a wrath point is to complete your objective.
Okay, so it's more it's rule book.
Yeah.
I could potentially be playing another game and get this same objective.
Yeah, it's
good.
yeah, exactly.
Personal objective, right? Or
Gotcha.
agenda.
So it's kind of generic, but
Still fun. That's my favorite kind of thing, is rolling for a special little...
Someone inevitably is going to get the,
fair enough,
double
too.
cross one of your teammates.
Well, that's paranoia. That's where I'm going. It's like, okay, what kind of objective are we going to have?
so it's going to be a D6. I don't know if y'all just want to keep these to yourself or if you want to share them. I think it would be kind of more fun to keep them to yourself, but
Yeah. So just a D6.
yeah, So that's your page.
And then do we kind of like,
It's page 57, nearby 57.
so then kind of like playing,
So these are weird.
kind of like playing some of those games you got that hidden agenda, and then do you kind of yell out bingo or Yahtzee or something?
Yeah,
when you
I
hit the
would
objective?
encourage you guys to definitely claim when you're doing it, but it might be obvious. But
Objective accomplished.
there's a lot of terminology in the game that is kind of confusing. So we'll talk about that.
So am I rolling on the archetype? No, I'm rolling on the background? Oh, the objectives. Here we go. Now, just trying to understand a little bit of the reference to the, I guess, if you will, the cast of religious identification. If you will. So I've heard a lot of things that talk about the Primarch or the Exarch, things like that, you know, which isn't necessarily descriptive of, like, the Emperor, but does each chapter kind of have its own Primarch that they honor their deeds to, or how does that work?
So the Absolvers have a one of their most famous members is their former chapter master. His name is Tigranus Dalir, and he's missing. A lot of the Absolvers chapter leadership went missing when they went to explore the Rift, and they've been missing for 3 years and presumed lost. So that's the Absolvers chapter has operated with their next tier of leadership ever since. But your Primarch would be the same as the Ultramarine. So what you guys
Marty's Kelgar.
Gulliman.
Oh, Gilliman, yeah.
So what you guys found out when Jackal Veronius returned was that Gilliman has been resurrected or has been reborn or found or rediscovered, or he's back in some way, form, or fashion. So that was one piece of good news that your chapter received from the Rogue Trader breaking through the Rift.
All right. So if I dedicate something to my Primarch, do I dedicate it to Tyrannus?
Tigranus, yeah.
Okay,
Tigranus, yeah.
Tigranus, okay.
So back in the Lander, the Hololith is a basic 3D projection screen that sort of shows the landscape of the land. You see the planet itself most of the shorelines are giant, 300-meter tall cliffs. The water's just smashing into the cliff sides below, and then the fishing villages will go way up high on these cliffs. So if you have any other questions about the planet, now would probably be the time to ask based on the briefing.
I know that we're obviously at some level accepting of each other, right? Because we're all kind of fall under the same umbrella. But can you shed a little light on, like, how does the Battle Sister view the Space Marine?
Absolutely.
Or
So
the Skitari or the Rogue Trader?
Constantina views the Space Marine as a god, as a living embodiment of a god, and she reveres the Space Marine.
I get that.
So the Sister of Battle, on the other hand, doesn't trust Abbasi, and she's watching for him to show any sort of sign of corruption or heresy, because he is human and he is prone to corruption. So she respects the part that the Skitarii play in the role, and the Space Marine respects the intelligence of Delta Signus as well, but he's sort of more practical. He's more pragmatic than the Sister when it comes to the religious side. He doesn't pray. He doesn't, they're the combat arm. They're not so much the religious side.
Okay. So the Battle Sister, are they? Because I know as a Space Marine scout, I've had all these implants. And my physiology.
Your race is Adeptus Astartes.
Right.
Her race is human, so she has lower. She has lower racial maximums than you, but she happens to be very well trained and a very strong, tough woman. Okay. But it's all coming from natural talent, and it's not coming from
so it's
implants.
Like, basically like Steven Seagal versus Jean-Claude Van Damme.
She's powered by her faith, whereas you're powered by science, in a sense.
What you guys name?
My name's Octavian.
Octavian, that's it.
So,
Octavian.
The reason I'm looking, so as we're on this craft, I'm admiring the Battle Sister, understanding that there's a place for humanity in the world, right? But I think you have like a bolt pistol, right?
Yeah, so I got a bolter and a chainsword.
Bolt pistol.
Bolt pistol. That's right. Bolter is
bolter short for the rifle.
Yeah,
I have the bolter.
Oh, okay.
So as I paid attention to your bolt pistol, and in my mind, I think, well, it's appropriate weapon to deliver the will of the Emperor in a human's hands.
Anybody looking at me right now, I'm just there with my what's it called? It's the rules of sororitas. I have this little book out, and I'm just basically I'm just reading out loud for everybody the
Trying
just
to convert us?
messages. Well, no, just messages of the emperor. Just reading out scripture.
You're like the Ferengi in the Rules of Acquisition,
And
right?
really, it's for you. I know it's probably just a song to you. It's just something good for you to hear. For you, I know it's good as well. That's Delta, but it's mostly for Abbasi so that he can hear it, and maybe it'll help keep him away from heretical.
Christmas Carol.
Yeah. Just to kind of give you an idea of what you might want to not do.
How long do you read from this tome?
Oh, longer than you'd probably like. Well, actually, no, you might like it, but longer than Abbasi would like.
I find your cellulose-based item poor in quality. This unit is displeased.
That's great.
I hold up my boulder. I'm like, extension of the will of the Emperor. Feel the weight.
I'll take it as if this is like just a holy object. This is beautiful.
Oh, and this unit absolutely takes it as well and begins checking it over.
Can you
looking
guys
at the
just sit
mechanics.
still? I mean, this thing is a very, very old machine. You're rocking it as you keep moving around.
This unit agrees. It is a very old machine.
Is this thing gonna break up on re-entry, or are we gonna just
Not
sit
if you
here?
sit still.
Not with the will of the Emperor on our side.
So just as you're talking about the machine breaking up on entry,
Good segue there.
Don't make me a liar immediately.
you hit a bout of pretty severe turbulence. The ship kind of rocks back and forth, and everybody sort of checks their straps.
Don't worry, she'll hold together. She'll be fine.
We just hit like a space seagull into the starboard engine. Yes.
God dang space
Just
eagles.
fluid motor. That's normal.
So as you hit this turbulence, everything kind of starts rocking a little bit, and Abbasi, you can see he's kind of flicking some dials, pressing some buttons, trying to see what's going on. Well, suddenly the hololith, the screen of that was projecting the 3D image of the landscape, just blacks out, and the candles blow out, and the inside of the ship goes rather dark, with the exception of the viewport out front, which is showing sort of the sun setting across the horizon. It's not really quite setting yet, but it's getting there.
Don't worry, that happens all the time.
So, so what you're going to want to do at this point is make a pilot roll to keep control of the ship.
Okay, so I am looking at my skills here. I have a rating of 1 in pilot.
Right. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at the attribute next to pilot.
What? None of you have piloting. If you can come up here and do it better, just sit down. I'll do it.
So you're going to look at the attribute that pilot adds to, which in this case is agility.
Okay.
Let the Emperor take the wheel.
And then, in addition to those dice, if I
No,
understand
as
correctly-
one of the substituting one of those dice would be the wrath die.
And
So
would you like to explain the wrath
So-
die to us?
the wrath die will be rolled in part of most rolls. It's not a guaranteed thing, but what it can do is if you roll a 6 on the wrath die, then you have scored a critical success. And upon scoring a critical success, you get a glory point, which is one of the biggest advantages, but you also succeed in various ways depending on how many other icons you get. So we'll take a moment to explain the dice rolling mechanics here and what an icon is. So in Wrath and Glory, when you roll a d6, if you get a 4 or a 5 or a 6, that's a success.
Okay.
That's cool.
So a 4 and a 5 is worth 1 icon. That's what it's called. And a 6 is what's known as an exalted icon. An exalted icon is worth 2 icons. So if I roll 4 dice and I get a 6, then I have achieved 2 icons in this roll, right? So if I were to roll a 5 and a 6, I have achieved 3 icons in this roll. So
Okay.
icons are what you need to meet your difficulty number to succeed at your test.
Okay, so you're going to set an icon number of like a difficulty,
Yes.
basically, and then what we roll, it translates into icons.
Yes.
Okay.
And then however many exalted icons you score above what you need can be what's called shifted to either get like a faster success, a better success, or more information out of the test. So the last and almost the best way to use shifts, however, is to add to your glory pool. So if you succeed, you don't get a critical, but you succeed beyond what you needed to, then you can still shift one of your exalted successes, your exalted icons, which is a 6, into a point of glory. You can do that once per roll. So in other words, like if you achieved a critical success, you would get a point of glory, or if you achieved 3 6s and only needed 2, then you could turn one of them into a point of glory.
And since we brought that up, tell us what glory is.
Right.
And you said pool. The question is, do we start with it?
So, glory is a shared pool, and it starts at 0. It can go up to the number of players plus 2, so it has a max of 6. So, it's encouraged if you get close to 6, spend it so that you can accrue more. Right.
So it caps out at 6.
Yeah. So it's a use or lose situation. So you want to use it, and what you can use it for is you can add 1 die to any roll per point of glory. So if there's 3 glory and you really want to make the best roll you can use all 3 glory. Okay. So the downside of this is if the team does not agree on the use of glory for an individual action, then that particular character runs the risk of taking a point of corruption, which is sort of, what leads to the slippery slope of chaos and heresy. So in other words, like if a single person's acting in their own best interest, that's exhibiting selfish behavior, and they're
they might be under the effects of
they'll get to roll a conviction roll, which will, I think it's conviction, which will determine if they can resist the effects of that selfish act. Glory can also be used to raise the damage of an attack by 1. So if you just need 1 more damage, boom, pop a glory, get the extra damage. It can be used to increase the severity of your success, much similar way that shifting can. And then finally, it can be used to seize the initiative, which will kind of save that one until we get to combat. But it can be used to jump ahead of an enemy, of a threat in combat with one of the players. So a lot of really useful things for glory. Wrath is similar, but it's an individual resource. Everybody begins the game with 2 wrath.
2 wrath. Okay.
So what wrath can do, wrath is awarded for good RP. It's awarded for completing your objective. It's awarded for just doing something really cool or glorious. And what you can spend your wrath on is to, if you make a roll and you're not happy with the success, that you could spend a wrath and re-roll all the 1s, 2s, and 3s. So obviously that can give you a chance to succeed where you failed, or to push it well beyond if you already succeeded. So you can restore shock, and we'll take a minute to explain shock. Your character sort of has 2 damage tracks. One is wounds, and the other is shock. And these can be comparable to physical and stun damage in Shadowrun. And so your wounds is how much physical damage you can take. Anytime you take physical damage, you can roll determination and convert some of that damage, or possibly all, into shock. So when you get to max shock, then you are considered exhausted. Your combat options become very limited. You can only do basic combat actions, walk or crawl, and until you rest. And so you can also, in some ways, reduce shock. Some characters have abilities to reduce shock, such as Abbasi. Others can reduce shock in other ways. So you can also spend a point of wrath and restore that shock. So that kind of lets you reset your stun track. So the wrath is a valuable resource. It's hard to re-earn, unlike glory, which you're earning pretty regularly. So kind of really think about it when you want to spend wrath. The final expensive wrath, though, and really the most important, in my opinion, is the narrative declaration. So this is what gives the players a bit of storytelling agency, and allows you to add something to a scene. So just a common example, might be in a factory, an open electrical panel. And then, you maybe push or shove the mechanical thread into the open electrical panel, or a barrel of Promethean to create an explosion. So these can have combat applications. If a mob's coming at you, you can shoot an explosive barrel near them with a narrative declaration. They can also have storytelling and role-playing applications. And so I encourage you to kind of consider that before you spend them all to end combat really fast, because the combat is already something these characters are pretty good at to begin with. So it's mostly a narrative tool in that sense, but it can be used for...
So with the soaking of the wounds, the shock, is it a 1-to-1 ratio, or just one? Okay.
When you roll determination, let's say you have 3 incoming damage, you roll determination and you get 2 icons. Then you'll take 1 wound and 2 shock.
Okay.
I see one of the uses for wrath on the character sheet says, action to restore double rank shock.
Oh, that's specific to you? Is it under your talents?
It's up here
I have
under
that too.
wrath.
Oh, Action to restore. Yeah, right. That's what I was talking about before. Like, so if you spend a wrath, whenever you restore shock, you'll restore in this case 4 shock or 2 shock.
Like maybe stun damage.
2
double
shock.
the rank.
Because your ranks are all 1
Okay.
right now. It's a
Gotcha.
tier 2 game, but each character's rank is 1. So
Gotcha.
like each tier has ranks within the tier.
So eventually, if you went up the tiers, you could restore like 10.
Well, you would
shock.
go up in rank before you would go up in tier. So when
Yeah.
you became rank 2, you would
Okay.
restore more shock.
Okay,
Yeah.
you'd restore 4 versus 2.
Right.
Okay.
So right now it restores 2 shock.
So for things that we have on the board that we've got to look at that aren't just our dice, we have Wrath, and that is coming generally exclusively to us from role-playing. We are spending that for a number of different things.
Individually.
Individually. Then we have Glory, which is a group pool that the Wrath has no max.
I think it does. I'm pretty sure it does. But
All right, so while you're looking that
let's-
up, the next one is Glory. And
yeah, the
Glory
max of
has
Glory
a
is 6.
maximum of 6 for this table, and that is spent differently than Wrath, but that is earned in a whole bunch of different ways from dice rolling and the like.
Yeah, it's earned from critting on the Wrath die and from shifting exalted icons. That's
Are
the
there-
major 2 ways.
Are there other tokens that will appear in the game?
No. Yeah, well, there's Ruin, right. Sorry, but there are Ruin. So here's how Ruin is the GM's equivalent of Wrath, and Ruin is intended to be used to give the bad guys a bit of an edge, and sort of reflects the anti-luck of the good guys more so than the luck of the bad guys. How close have the good guys come to corruption? And that's what fuels the Ruin pool. So here's the actions that will provide me, the GM, Ruin. So if a player fails a corruption roll, I immediately get a Ruin point. So if a player fails a fear roll and wants to run away, I immediately get a Ruin point. If I'm rolling and I roll a 6 on my Wrath die, I get a Ruin point. So Ruin can be spent to do the same thing that Glory can be spent, in addition to 2 extra things. And those things are, bad guys on their own can't make determination rolls. But if I spend Ruin, a particularly dangerous threat can make a determination roll. So it's a way to sort of empower the bad guys a little bit. The other thing is certain abilities of certain psychically powerful or chaotically influenced bad guys will be able to spend Ruin directly to power abilities. So they might have nasty things they can do, but it costs a Ruin to do.
And then one more thing before I make this piloting roll, we have the Wrath die. When I roll a 6 on that, I'm getting a Glory point to the pot.
Yes.
Is there any other thing that I could roll on this die that's going to be different?
Yes. So if you roll a 1 on that die, you're going to experience a complication. And so a complication is the equivalent of a glitch. It doesn't, negate your success, but it causes some additional issue.
And your weapon discharging inside the...
Generally bad.
Generally, it's bad, but it's nothing. Yeah, we want it. It should be like a hurdle that adds to the narrative,
Okay.
without like punishing the player for rolling bad.
Well, then
Check to see if the weasel can swim.
right.
Dave, you have brought that up in like the last 10 games.
So funny.
It's so funny.
It's so funny.
So without further ado, I am going to roll my piloting of 1. I have my agility, the linked attribute of 3, so I'm rolling 4 dice, 3 regular, 1 Wrath die. Here we go. So I'm going to end up with a total of 5 icons.
Nice.
I did not roll anything special on the Wrath die.
Yes. So your difficulty in this case is 2.
Uh-huh.
That means you succeeded. It also gives us a chance to shift an exalted icon. So if you can't shift both of the icons of the exalted icon, you can't do it. In this case, you got a 4. Then you got an exalted icon, which counts as 2, meaning that's a total of 3.
Yep.
That exceeds your target number, right?
Right.
So now you have an extra 6 that you didn't use, right?
Yes.
So that can be shifted to award a glory for the team, if you would like.
All right.
Okay. So as the glider begins to experience turbulence, you hear a lot of the systems shut down and try to reboot. Abbasi thinks quickly and reacts very well, pulling out of what feels like a period of free fall for a moment into a smooth glide and gets the systems rebooted.
I told you. She just needs a little kick. She gets going well.
If at this point Delta Signus would wish to in any way commune with the machine spirit of the lander, that would be something that you might want to do. So communing in this game, communing with a machine spirit, being an adept of the Adeptus Mechanicus, you are taught how to do this. You know, the fact that you're primarily machine helps you in doing this, and it's sort of comparable to a sensing, but from a machine standpoint, right? So the better your roll in these cases, the more information you would get.
All right, I'm definitely going to commune. And
So you're going to make a tech roll.
And is this going to be a thing the DS45 does that we don't do? This is something specific.
Yeah.
And
So-
is there any weird outward stuff? Is he putting his hands together?
Well, before you roll, so you could try it. It would be a tech roll just like anybody else. You know, if you don't have a tech score, then I think it's at a disadvantage. But you could try it. But you know, you don't know the prayers of the Omnissiah, and you could anoint it with your holy oil, but you don't think that's really necessary right now. You're just sort of trying to gain
So it's
info.
like a physical, like I plug into something, or do
No,
I just
you
access?
just be near, but if you know, some may put their hands on the machine and feel the humming of the machine and you know, feel what it's doing and try to it's you're communing with the machine spirit. All machines in this world have spirits, even so much down to some of the bullets. Bullets individually have their own spirits, and those spirits decide when to explode their ordnance. You know? Yeah. So not everybody's, but yours and yours.
Ours definitely.
As the
Bolt weapons have
turbulence-
machine spirits.
As the turbulence kind of fades, I'll actually unbuckle from my seat and get down on the ground and put my
Whoa!
forehead.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
What's it doing?
And I put my forehead and my hands on it, and I'll begin to commune.
Cool.
Okay, I have no idea what he's doing down there, but keep an eye on him.
6 or a 1. Okay.
We're
so
landing well.
I got a.
Is that your?
No, I got 2 6s, which means I got 4 points of icon points.
Yep.
Do I succeed in my?
So yeah,
commune?
you needed a 3. Now, if you had achieved 5, you could shift 1 or you could trade it for more information. So so you commune at a very basic level where you can't really feel much more than just the raw emotion of the machine and of the machine spirit. And so what you feel, what you sense from this is sort of like a frustration or resistance from the machine spirit. Penetrating into this planet's atmosphere, really for some reason doesn't like this, and the emotional image that you're given is sort of similar to like a bucking bronco wanting to get its riders off of it. Now, you've never seen a bucking bronco in biological form, but your people do use them as models for biomechanical mounts. So you do know the concept, and so you know. So you kind of get the feeling that the ship does not want passengers, and is in a bad mood and is ready to take a break.
Doesn't sound like a very good ship if it doesn't want passengers.
We haven't heard this yet.
What is your communion?
And how did you know it was communing?
Well, wouldn't
Yeah,
we,
you would
we
recognize
Would know.
it. Yeah.
We would
I wouldn't.
No.
Yeah, well, on
Would
the
I?
battlefield, it's very common to see tech priests or other Mechanicum members, communing with the machine spirits. They're a vital part of keeping these machines going.
So middle of combat, somebody like DS is going to drop to the ground, put his head down.
Yeah. So that's how you might repair, the ship. But
You're like, Okie religions are no substitute for a good blaster, your side kid.
in this case, sort of like calming a horse. You're able to
Yeah,
sort
that's
of
exactly what I was
channel.
picturing. So I'm still on the ground. I'm going to start petting the actual floor of the
Okay,
ship.
now what's he doing?
And
Look, I can't watch the front view screen and what he's doing. Just you guys keep an eye on it.
Just pay attention and drive or fly.
I think it's making snow angels.
This unit senses the great iron steed beneath us.
Wait, what?
We are not worthy to ride this creature. You have done this a disservice.
Are you talking about my ship? My ship is fine.
And I'm going to say thank you for carrying us. I will endeavor, this unit will endeavor to please you in the future, great steed.
So, as she communes, you can feel almost beneath you the ship's turbulence kind of gets lessened, and it sort of starts reactivating some of the systems you weren't able to get rebooted, and kind of smooths out the ride a bit.
So, important only because I want to make sure that we're not calling different things. In pronouns, is DS45 male, female? You're
I
using
am
she.
above.
Yeah.
Right, you're using she, I'm
Okay.
using he, but really
Right.
should we be using something else?
We don't know.
They,
because
You
it?
could ask.
DS45, yeah, you could ask, but
Yeah, feel
I'm
free.
talking
that's-
about Barry at
Yeah.
the table
So
in reference.
its gender is not immediately able to be discerned.
He's a good default.
it?
Are we going with they or
Yeah,
it? Table group. What are we going with? They
I
or
think
it?
depending on the character, it might be different. So, like,
Yeah.
if you
Okay.
had respect
Good
for
enough.
them, they would probably be the best.
All right,
if you
so-
don't have respect,
Yeah.
maybe it.
And see, now I disagree. I would view myself as an it.
Oh, well, then.
But
Share.
since nobody asked, it's just kind of up to
Yeah,
what
gotcha.
your character would do.
I just meant for the game itself. I keep referring to.
It's beyond gender, so
Yeah,
like
it's hard.
Perfect. I'm good with it.
It's beyond the non-machine's ability
Yeah.
to comprehend.
Your binary sexuality does not bother
all
me
of
in any way.
all of the parts that make up a gender are no longer present.
Huh? Also, something I don't want to know.
And so as it kind of steadies, I'll give it one more affectionate motion, and then I'll get up and buckle back in.
You could have sworn as you stand up that it kind of purrs on the way.
And I will say, from the lightning and the tempest, our emperor deliver us.
Your craft is receiving the benefits of the machine spirit.
Okay, and sister, should we be saying amen to that one?
I don't think do we use amen in this? I don't think so.
I raised an eyebrow
Praise
at the
him.
rogue trader.
As long as you praise the emperor, that is all that matters.
Huh? All right, praise the emperor. I get it.
No, the light has been shown on this ship. I don't hear you praising the emperor.
I just said praise the emperor.
I need
Get-
more.
You need more?
I need
like
Brennan,
the holler back.
you best
The
be
holler
praising
back.
right now.
Talking about amen, though, and
Yeah.
I'm like,
Holla back.
Amen. That sounds heretical.
Emperor on 3, emperor on me. 1, 2, 3, emperor.
It pans out to the space shot, the landscape, and the ship explodes. And that is that's a wrap on Wrath and Glory.
You know what?
Pilot of the ship doesn't agree with the Emperor's sightings.
One less heretic in the world.
Right.
The universe. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and hit the restart button. Don't be a heretic this time, Barry.
We don't want to kill you before we land.
Awesome.
Bob at an airport.
So, thanks to the piloting of Abbasi and the assistance of the Scutarius,
But mostly piloting of Abbasi.
yeah, the lander has a smooth approach towards the city. So we'll take a moment just to kind of describe the city that you guys are seeing as you're approaching.
Now
There's a
you
fishing village.
I was to say you said fishing
Sorry,
village.
fishing
now it's a
village.
city.
Right.
Is this a fishing city?
Well, it's a village of about 50 buildings, so it's more
That's
than
not
just no. It's a lot bigger than a village right now.
Well,
And-
if they're all
depending-
chicken shacks, we're fine.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's
Depending on your scaling, I mean,
I
if
think-
you're in a universe of trillions and
Yes.
trillions, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
that's to us it would be seen as a city, but in this universe it's a village.
all right. So we're on approach to the village.
So what you see is a village that's built onto a coastal cliffside, and so it's sort of built into a shape of a V, which is like a large crevice of the cliff that's leading in, right? So you have sort of a village here that, if this were the cliffside, it's built on a V and has a big wall around that, and all the buildings would be in there. So most of the buildings line the V on the cliffside, right? And so below that, you sort of have about a 300-meter drop down the cliffs, and then you have the ocean. So behind or surrounding the walled-in part of the city, where you see around 50 buildings of various stories, you see miles and miles of shantytown, just stretched out.
In addition to the 50 buildings.
The fishing village itself has a wall around it with gun emplacements. Beyond that, it's just tents and
Outside this
fires
wall.
and just possibly millions.
Like Burning Man.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Just like Burning Man is very far distance outside the city.
Just like
So-
Burning Man too.
Off in the distance, you can see a mountain rising up on the other side of the city. That's about 3,000 meters tall, and inside that, on the face of that mountain, you can see the carving of.
By my
some
estimate,
hero.
that mountain looks to be about 3,000 meters tall.
Really, you get that just looking out the viewpoint?
Well, you can get it off the hololith because it has the landscape. So
Nice.
yeah.
I even have a scale for what that looks like. I'm picturing it so good.
So yeah, it's
All right,
it's
look, in all honesty, I don't even use that half of the board. You guys are welcome to look at it. And yeah, you're right. It does say 3,000 meters right
Yeah.
there.
As you come in, you recognize this giant bust that's been carved on the side of this massive mountain to be Tyrannus. And so he sort of sits there gargantuan overlooking the city and the ocean. He points out to the ocean. You guys are kind of coming in over the ocean.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. There's a face up on the hill there.
Glory to the Emperor.
That's the Emperor? That doesn't look like him.
the emperor appears in many forms throughout the universe.
Your soft mind cannot comprehend.
But if you are open to it, we can help you.
To praise the Emperor? Is that what we're doing again?
To better understand.
Praise the Emperor.
Good.
So, Abbasi, thankfully, this flight is almost over. As we're cruising down to a small landing pad on the side of one of these cliff sides, which is sort of like a dock. But
Do these guys know we're coming?
yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
part of your mission briefing that I neglected earlier was that you have a local contact, which is a ecclesiarchy enforcer. So these guys are privately hired law enforcement, and so that's the person that sent the request to the rogue trader fleet for help to investigate the Saint. So you have a contact when you land,
They're like rent-a-cops.
Yeah.
They're like mall cops.
pretty much. Yeah.
All right.
But better because they praise the Emperor.
Yeah.
Right. They have a lot of
So-
money so they can afford us.
So as you set down on this landing pad, you can see the fishing vessels of the village hanging from different elevations along the cliff with these steel cables that are tied to these massive winches up top. So the way they work is they load up top and just load their boats down this 300-meter cliff into the ocean. So one thing that kind of attracts your attention is a lot of the boats have like extra armor plates applied and armored lattices and large spikes sticking out that, you know, seem to be more recently or kind of hastily attached. So
This-
ship lands, you guys kind of pile out along the dockside. Being the end of the day, you see a lot of fisher folk walking past carrying these strangely shaped horned tentacled sea creatures, you know, along the edge of the cliff line to go bring them in for cleaning and preparation.
Now, with my physiological implants and modifications, does it have an effect on my appetite? Do I have to consume a much higher caloric, count on a daily basis, to maintain all this extra stuff that I've got going on internally? Or
You probably
do I
aren't
need
very
to-
appetized looking at these creatures, I wouldn't
Okay.
think. But you could stop.
Got a couple power bars in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, these things, it's sort of just like we're making do with what we had, but it's not very appetizing from an external visitor's perspective.
Do I eat?
Not really. I'm sure you have like some sort of
Motor oil.
like
You have a
Like a
little
silicone.
port that you put in and
Yeah.
it just zaps it into the Commune.
It's like a Nutribullet, I just cram stuff
some
in there.
nutrient. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
This unit finds the rudimentary protection actions that this village has taken deeply
Flawed?
flawed.
You said the village was protected to have armaments.
So right, the village, the wall goes around the cliff. So the village does have gun emplacements sporadically along
Facing
the wall.
towards the tent city,
right.
not facing out towards the water.
Right.
Okay.
The wall seems like it's a newer part of the city, comparatively speaking, that maybe it was erected as part of some of the supplies brought by Baronius fleet.
And we landed inside the wall.
Right.
Okay.
So the only people allowed in the wall are people that can strictly prove their Enochian lineage. Like, that's how segregated this city is. You can't just come into the fishing village. If you're a pilgrim, you're stuck on the outside of the wall. So there's no pilgrims inside the city because it would just get overrun, and the ability to even fish for food is a part of the ecclesiarchy, and that's protected from,
And the
external
fishing
pilgrims.
village Morncleft is not the shrine. It doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't encompass the shrine.
It's right. It's a fishing village on this world. The shrines are in other cities, and
Okay.
there's even a local order called the Order of the Sanctified Shield of Battle Sisters that do nothing but protect these shrines. So that's why they sent in the Order of the Martyred Lady here, because their main objective is don't let the pilgrims, steal or cause any harm to any of the relics or bones of any of the saints or anything. So that's their mission. So they're holed up. So separate order. Two orders of Battle Sisters in the galaxy, but only one Space Marine chapter.
As it should be.
So as you're kind of taking in the sights and just seeing all these, fisher folk carry, they also have a lot of really odd fishing utensils. One walks past with what you would believe is certainly an explosive harpoon of some sort, like a giant harpoon with a ordnance strapped to it. Yeah.
Primitive weaponry.
So,
Is it familiar to my databases?
no, but it seems simple to you. Simple, crude, but possibly effective.
Are you kind of like a protocol droid?
Kind of.
I mean, that's cool. I mean, you got like all these files. You're like, oh, I'm fluent in 8 billion forms of language.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm picturing.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, as you're taking in the sights, sort of a heavier built, like kind of veteran, older woman in a full body glove, kind of walks up. She's
Like a wetsuit.
like an armored body glove. It's like basically like an armored suit. So,
Saying glove. Is
yeah,
that like a terminology?
body glove.
It's a
like,
Warhammer term.
It's a type of armor. Yeah, it is an item of
Picture
armor.
like a cat suit.
Right.
It's like a cat suit, but with armor plates on it.
Sequin pen leather.
So she's kind of a gruff looking, looks kind of, tired and like she's been run rampant. She's got gray eyes, and you can see sort of these weird facial scars around her mouth. You kind of, wonder if that's not indicative of like a rebreather or some other augmetic having been removed.
Okay, would I recognize that? I mean, I'm assuming a lot of my
Yeah, you've seen, you've seen scars very similar to these in your work. Yeah.
Okay.
So, as soon as she sees you guys sort of hop out and makes you out in the crowd, she immediately comes over looking very relieved to see you and says, welcome, my lords and lady. I sure am happy to see you guys.
Well, hello.
Yes.
I figured one of you ecclesiastical types would have jumped forward, but I guess that'd be me. So we are here to meet the saint.
Great.
The alleged saint, excuse me.
Yeah, there's definitely something fishy about this whole claim
I
that
find your lack of faith disturbing.
it's like if you would please join me. My house is not far from here, and we can go over the objective in detail.
Okay.
Yes.
So I will walk beside her.
I'm gonna pat the ship before I go, and then I'll keep walking.
Everyone remember where we parked.
And as I'm walking down, I'm probably just gonna be silent for the walk and just scanning the entire area, just sniffing
Taking
the
it
air.
in.
Yeah, taking it in, sniffing the air for them heretics.
Apparently one of the Sisters of Silence.
Now, we're not here to necessarily meet with the saint. We're here to look at the shrine and people that there may be this new cult emerging.
I thought we were here. My understanding is we are here to endeavor to figure out whether the saint is true.
I will leave.
Self-proclaimed saint.
I will leave that up to
Yes.
you.
Gotcha.
What you believe to be the correct course of action. But yes, I would like to ask that you investigate this claim of sainthood.
Did we bring the testing tools, the bowl, the stuffed animal, the peas?
We are the testing
I am the hand
tools.
of
Yes.
the emperor.
Okay.
This unit can assure you that we have all of the necessary parameters handled.
Okay. Alrighty.
So as she's walking to the house, leading you guys to the house, and kind of in response to your question of, is it just you? She starts kind of absently mentioning how an administratum survey determined, there's this land and its surrounding environs were capable of being policed by a single ecclesiarchy crusader. And it turned out that survey was performed about a century ago, and she estimates that there should be at least 50 enforcers here along with her now, but
And there was only
unfortunately
you?
it's just me and now you. So that's why I needed the help. As you can see, I'm a bit outmatched with all of the pilgrims that were stuck here when the Great Rift opened.
Well, let us make a determination, and we'll see if we can get, or if we need more.
Yeah, and just as an aside, that is something you could put in a report to your superiors. Say, hey, we request another administratum survey to be performed. It's a little outdated. So her
Census report,
yeah.
basically.
Yeah, her home's not far, so a couple streets off of the cliffside, and she leads you there. It's kind of a small, hovel of a home, but gets the job done. Mostly like one room for meeting, and then a staircase, and then a second room above. So.
Now, you said that they basically live in these in the cliff wall, right?
No. Yeah, the They live on top of the cliff wall. The boats are hanging from the cliffs. So
And they said it's up, what, how far down?
it's about 300 meters. So
So I'm
long
wondering-
drop.
So
Yeah.
I want to ask, why have you placed your dwelling so far from the ocean, from the water line? Do the tides come up so high that it endangers the
The tides
home?
do shift a lot, and prior to the great rift opening above the planet, it was rather inconvenient. But nowadays, the sea life has begun to change, making it actually a protective measure. But when this town was established, the cliffs were protection from other things.
Begun to change. Tell us about this sea life. What do you mean begun to change?
Well, it seems that the rift has had sort of an impact on some of the sea life here, in that it's possibly becoming a bit smarter. We're seeing a lot more injuries from fisher folk, and those injuries are a lot more severe in some cases.
And there's sea life caused injuries?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Huh.
So the
And
fish.
we
yeah.
noticed coming in that there were crude weapons on many of the ships.
Yeah, we've had to adapt to this new world in order to continue to be able to pull the bounty of the sea. We've really struggled, but we sure could. We could use a few less mouths to feed, but the fisher folk are very needed in this time, and we need to make sure we protect them.
And the fisher folk are those within the city
Yes.
walls, or
So these guys living within the city walls, they all have permission and authority to pull what they need to out of the ocean. They feed themselves first, and then they give the rest to the ecclesiarchy. So they're allowed the benefit of feeding themselves and their family.
and who feeds the rabble outside the walls?
That's a good question. So we try to share with them what we can, but after the briefing, I'll give you firsthand knowledge of what we're doing there. So any other questions before we begin? Please have a seat. She has really crude wooden chairs that you might shatter were you to sit in.
All of us?
No, just Space Marine.
Just him.
Is
rest of
there
you can sit
any
fine.
tech in this room?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things. Nothing
that
really
I've-
interesting to you.
Nothing
got
that
a place where I
warrants.
can plug in my phone?
Has there been any instances of heresy prior to this possible false saint?
Well, things have gotten pretty bad here in the time since the rift opened 3 years ago, and there are rumors of different heretical cults in the town, or outside of the town walls, yes. We're not sure if this particular cult is one of them, but we'll go into this a little more detail during feeding time.
We shall start with this heresy and move on from there.
So, all of the water on this planet is not drinkable. So it's brine water. It's non-potable unless you have some sort of augmentation that allows you to drink it. So there are rare desalinization units on the planet, but they're old, and their machine spirits are very cantankerous, and they don't always operate when they should, and that keeps the population pretty much
starving
and dehydrated most of the time.
A query. These
Desalinization stations.
These desalinization stations, are they within the path that we will take to view the possible saint?
Where you'll be headed to find the saint is their particular shrine. They don't, as far as I know, they don't have a desalinization station, but I'm not privy to the knowledge of where our local stations are. This is not like a town, this is not like a town resource. It's like something that would be fought over and kept to oneself.
A simple solution would just be to outfit each of the citizens with an augmentation that would allow them to drink the water.
Unfortunately, while that is very true, we just simply don't have those augmentations available in the millions. Well, in the thousands or hundreds of thousands. So, with that, we'll continue with the briefing if no one has any other questions.
That is acceptable.
So, as I was saying, a local cult has risen up. They're called the Waterbringers, and they've come surrounding this saint. And so the numbers of this cult has grown rapidly within our city. We've
Why?
well, it seems as if they have some way of getting water to the people. Unfortunately, many people that I interview tell me that the water they offer is given at prohibitively high prices. People are asked to trade, entire seasons worth of seeds or herbs, or here, the food doesn't taste really all that well. So a pack of herbs can go a long way. There's a few seeds that grow in the arid conditions here. Of course, they take water, but seeds are more valuable than currency. So these guys have built up quite the following by trading their water for various possessions of the townsfolk.
Obviously, the supply of potable water is much, there's a deficit of that. So
Yeah.
It's become this like treasured thing.
Yeah, exactly. So
I'm curious how the planet is able to maintain such a high population with such a needed resource in not in abundance.
absolutely, and it's not able to maintain it. It's not. People are dying daily here. So we absolutely don't have the infrastructure. We're no agri world. We can't feed the population that got trapped here, and so that the strain that's bringing on us is possibly going to lead to all of our downfall.
Have there been uprisings? Is that why the walls are?
Absolutely. If the wall weren't here, the fishing village would have already been taken over by the pilgrims.
Now, do the pilgrims worship this water god?
So the cult is emperor worshipping. The cult is openly pro-emperor, and anybody that joins the cult is seen as following the emperor's imperial cult. So they just believe that this specific group of followers, has a way to get water. Some of them are asked to pay a little bit more than others. We're particularly very interested in investigating the claim of sainthood. Obviously, an unfounded claim of sainthood is heresy and should be addressed as such. I would recommend, investigating the cult a little more closely before making a decision and seeing if you can possibly, ask around town or infiltrate the cult to gain a little bit more knowledge to go off of.
If this person is a saint and they can bring water to the people of the Emperor, then this is something that should be fostered, not at a price. They should be giving the water to those that follow the Emperor, and then we will deal with them as such. If they are heretics, they will no longer be a problem.
My lady, I surely hope that is the outcome of this. That would be really helpful for our town.
This is just a side question. So if a saint were to appear on this planet, would there be benefits with the government? Would they get more resources potentially?
Yeah, if they're confirmed to be a saint, then they would absolutely get more resources. They might take them. They might leave them here to do whatever they're doing here, and then protect after they were sanctioned.
Okay, so there's a couple different positive things that could come out of this person being a genuine saint.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there more to the briefing?
So, I could answer any questions that you might have, but as far as my part, I'm done.
So you have knowledge of where their main center of worship is?
Well, the shrines these cults keep are outside of the fishing village, so they'll require you to leave the confines of the walls.
There's more than one shrine?
So there are numerous cults within the town with shrines, but this particular one, the Waterbringers, is one of them. And it's the main one, and that's the one that's claiming sainthood.
And the cults here within the town, all of these cults are emperor approved.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they're not necessarily directly approved because they don't have, a line back to get approval or anything, but they're followers of the
And
empire.
they're not saying they have a saint in the middle of them. They're just shrines. Correct?
Yeah. No, right. Only one of them has
so
a
the
claim of sainthood. Yeah.
Okay, and that's
But there's several. Anywhere where people could gather to worship could be a shrine.
Okay.
So as you're talking, you just hear this loud, buzzer go off, almost village-wide. It's just oh, actually, this is a perfect opportunity. I can kind of answer your questions better with a...
Now the air raid siren's going off. It's a great time for me to explain what that is.
Yeah. So, that buzzer marks feeding time. So we'll go ahead and head out to the wall, and I can show you a little bit more about your mission.
Then let us go.
All right. So she leads the congregation out of her home and heads towards the wall. As you're walking towards the wall, you see a lot of fishermen carrying full barrels of fish viscera, fish heads, tentacles, bones, all the parts that people inside the wall didn't want to eat.
Awful.
And they're just carrying barrel after barrel towards the wall.
Ooh, love that.
Yeah.
Barrel of
So-
scales.
Yeah.
I believe they call that chum.
Yeah, right.
So you guys kind of follow along with the flow of traffic and walk up to the wall where you just hear what sounds like a great number of people on the other side of the wall. You can't quite see from your perspective. There's no gate here.
How do they get the chum, as it were, out to the people? Is it just tossed over the edge of the wall?
Well, you know, we have to make do with what we have, and you know, so the people bring their own pots, and we share what food the adepts within the wall don't consume. Yes.
I can't wait to see what this is going to be. I envision people with pots holding on their heads getting chum dumped. Let's proceed to the wall. This sounds exciting.
So the smell of what you would imagine that smelling like becomes stronger and stronger as you get closer to the wall. And so you start to hear the rabble-rousing going on from the other side. Your contact, whose name is Rashida, I apologize, I forgot to...
Rashida.
Yeah, I forgot to introduce her when she came. Her name, Rashida. Rashida walks over to the wall and taps some keys on a keypad, and you see some blinds open up to where you can kind of see through the wall.
Okay.
So if you want, you can go to the blinds and take a peek.
How high is the wall?
It's about 10 feet.
It's only 10 feet. So
Yeah.
So we could like literally throw like, fish heads up over the top, and watch them all scurry for it. Okay.
Yeah. There's
Two
some
more
like
tiers and you could look over it.
yeah. There's like some
tiptoes.
lifts that raise the barrels up, and then when they get to the top of the wall, you see guys on the top of the wall just.
So it's exactly what I thought.
Yeah.
As I was talking on the way over, they're just dumping the barrels on the other side. So Rashida, is there a trough or a capture area on the other side that they're pouring them into, or is this going on the ground?
You can see, like, all the people are just holding pots.
Right.
So some of it's hitting the ground, blood splashing on the ground. Like,
does Rashida have like an honorific like captain or
enforcer?
Enforcer.
She's an ecclesiarchy enforcer.
So like Enforcer Rashida. Okay. Enforcer Rashida, this unit suggests chutes might be a better delivery system.
And possibly a capture trough.
Yeah, thanks. I'll take notes for that whenever I have extra hands to help.
Perhaps
build
even a hopper would make sense.
You see on the other side, there's probably 1,000 people on this part of the wall just trying to push their way up into the front to get.
So are we looking through like a clear screen into the wall?
Can they
You're
see
looking
us?
through no, they can't see you very well.
Like an arrow slit.
Yeah.
Oh, so we're looking through a slit in the wall.
You can see outdoors, and they can't really make out who's looking at them. So, in addition to these people gathered by the wall, behind them, you're also seeing the extents of the shanty town. So, as it's getting dark at this point, the sun's starting to go down. So you see all of these barrel fires lit behind you, and you see all of these people gathering for this distribution of
I kind of get the sense that the population in the shanty town or outside the wall is much greater than that within the wall.
Yes, that's a fair
Because of
assessment.
that, what keeps the shanty people from combining, uniting, and overthrowing?
We worry about that every day.
They're called gun emplacements. We
Yeah.
saw them when we came in. I think you missed it sitting so far back in the
I did
Yeah,
not
that's
miss
the
it.
first step.
Okay, so the wall is not necessarily. Is it manned? They don't have the
No, they're
personnel to man.
automated. Yeah.
Okay, they're automated.
They're actually
gun emplacements.
controlled by like servitors, but
Okay.
Is it like a metal wall? Is it stone?
it's mostly metal. It's not like a chain link fence with tin roof.
It's kind of like Escape from New York.
It's like it's
Wall
a
around Long Island.
yeah,
They
I mean,
put up, yeah.
it's like a rapidly constructed but forceful wall. I mean, it's strong, but
Metal.
They brought in parts. They set up. They have these rapid deployment walls they can do. But
Query: when the citizens within the wall, do they ever leave it to go out into the pilgrims areas, the shantytown?
we don't recommend it. No. But-
When that does happen, what are some of the dangers that are faced?
So as you'll see, looking out, among the pilgrims, naturally, crime has rapidly risen, and that's brought about the formation of these various gangs, some of which sort of masquerade as cults. And so that would be where you would find the heresy here is, these gang members. So if you take a look outside the wall, when you see the faces of these people, you notice that some of them have these strange, colorful glyphs on their faces. And
What?
it's like,
Yeah, I'll be the one to ask. What is the meaning of those?
so she says, well, when the pilgrims used to come, one of the mementos they would get on the planet is they would get a implant. It's a subcutaneous laser emitting diode implant that's controlled by the user. You implant all these lights in your face, and it lets you sort of create these glyphs and colors on your face. They're called skin plants. And it used to be something that the pilgrims did just as a memento of their trip here, but when the whole planet got shut down, they started being used for all sorts of things, such as to denote gang affiliation or to even transmit like hidden messages in large crowds. And so they sort of got creative with these skin plants, and so now some of the cults and the gang members use them to denote which cult they belong to. So with that, while you're looking, let's have awareness rolls from anybody that's looking through the slits.
I'm looking.
So awareness is the skill. So I have a rating 3, so I roll 3 dice.
3 plus the attribute next to it.
So one of
it's a 6. So I'm rolling 9 dice.
Yeah. So in the long run,
That's what it says.
and
right?
then one of the
Wait,
dice
is that right?
you replace with
3
one.
plus.
Or, yeah, with
No,
the,
what is
with
the A?
My
Is
awareness.
that an A? It looks like
It's
a
an
6.
S.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
an S. Sorry. Strength?
Oh no, it's an int. Awareness is int.
Oh, awareness. Oh, sorry. It's int. Yes. So int, which is what is my int? Oh, 3 plus 3. Okay, so I'm rolling 6 dice.
So
One of those has to be the wrath die, right?
Yeah. So you can see if you filled them out on your own sheet, you can fill them out and put your total, and that's what we recommend. I just didn't want to put 3 columns of numbers because it was super confusing. You know what I mean? But on your own sheet, you would probably write 2 here and then 4 there.
So I'm trying to understand exactly how the roll works again. So I've made my roll. I've got 2 2s,
Yeah.
2 3s, a 2 on this wrath die, and a 4.
So you got 1 icon.
So so an icon is like a success, right?
Yeah. So
which is anything 4, 5, or 6.
4,
right?
The
5, or
average
4.
difficulty is 3.
So
So
4
a 2 is easy.
Okay.
A 3 is average. A 5 is something really hard. So in your case, you got 1, which if this is an average difficulty test, then you probably didn't succeed.
So 4 and 5 give you 1 icon
So-
point each, and then a 6 gives you 2.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
then I
Oh,
have a
So you
total-
could, if you want it, spend the glory and reroll all of those dice.
Then I have 3 icons.
I don't think I need to spend the glory to just notice something.
Yes, I am the robot. Fear me.
The calibrated die, literally.
Okay, so I have 2 icons.
And I have 3.
So Delta Signus, as you're looking around, you're using sort of your telescopic eyes to zoom in on different members of the crowd and just see if you see anything that stands out to you. You wouldn't necessarily recognize, some of the things some of the other party members would recognize, but you can, if there are any parties of interest to you, share that with your teammates. So you happen to notice these guys dressed in red robes, like red rags is a better way of putting it.
Sure.
Rags that have been dyed red, and their skin plants are sort of alternating shades of silver and red, and they're kind of flowing down in motion. They sort of look like how you would imagine rain would fall.
Water. It
Yeah.
looks like how water would look.
Red rain. Red thunderstorm.
Enforcer Rashida, do you know the colors or the customary garb of the water bringers?
So the tribe that has announced sainthood, the Waterbringers, they tend to associate with blue and green skin plants and blue and green robes and rags. So she doesn't know what you're looking at, but if you point them out, she might.
Yeah, and I'll just literally point and I'll say, query, the ones in the red and the black, there appears to be a liquid motion on their face. Are they associated with another water topic?
So she follows where you're kind of motioning.
I'm
So
just
she
literally
says-
like that one.
Oh yeah. So those are the Deluge. That's one of the gangs that I was mentioning earlier. They masquerade as a cult, but a lot of people that I talk to seem to have nothing but negative things to say about them.
Wouldn't it be something that a simple group of Space Marines would come down and eradicate them? Seems
No,
like rabble
yeah.
like that is unacceptable.
Oh, we would welcome the assistance. I'm just certain that the Absolvers have greater priorities.
This unit assures you if the chance arises, they will taste my maul.
All right, so one thing that Delta Signus pointed out to Enforcer Rashida was that there were a group of men dressed in red and like sort of carrying these dark red silver skin plants on their face, and the skin plants are in motion, so they kind of make the image of a rainfall, a red rainfall. And Rashida introduced this particular gang or cult as the Deluge. And she says that they have a bad reputation in the shanty towns as, they do provide water to people. They only provide water to certain people and only those that can really pay their steep price as well. And there are some rumors of disappearances associated with them.
Are they connected to these water seekers?
Not as far as we know, but when Delta Signus points them out and you begin discussing them, you as a Space Marine, you see these guys, and you notice that they're very well built, muscular, and athletic. They don't look like
emaciated,
the pilgrims
dehydrated.
of
Do
this.
they look like they've been genetically altered? Like they
No,
have
no.
implants?
They just they're really, healthy compared to the rest of the people outside this wall. And your instincts kind of trigger and you say, these guys could be a threat. Your danger sense kind of fires
They're
a
on the
little
other
bit.
side of the wall.
Yeah. So as they're walking through the crowd to make their way up to the front, people part to make way for these
So
guys.
they can get the fish slop.
Yeah.
Okay. They're not coming and taking the buckets.
They're
of
not
fish slop
actually
from
going for the
other
fish slop.
people.
They're just walking through the crowd right now.
They're not like bullying.
Yeah.
They're
They don't
not-
have pots. They don't seem to even need food looking at them.
Right.
So, but they are present for this feeding time.
Perhaps we should go out and meet these people. Why they're question them why they're so well fed.
Yes, it would be good to make sure they are not withholding from others within the Emperor's light.
I say I'm thirsty.
Praise the Emperor. Let's go.
He's starting to
smile.
figure
Right,
it out.
right. I'm doing it. Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
There's hope for you yet.
as we're going, if Abbasi leaves, kind of goes ahead, I'll
Yep.
turn to you and say, perhaps that one will not need to be purged.
Your scripture readings are starting to take effect.
So, Enforcer Rashida, will you get us outside the wall,
So,
like compatriots would like to speak with this cult?
absolutely. We have a tunnel that leads through the wall. It's sealed up from the inside, but it can get you out at nightfall.
As we move this way, so query, do they often come at feeding times without collecting any of the food?
They're seen anywhere there's a large crowd sort of exerting dominance and kind of...
Maybe we should go collect food as if we are some of the local peasants and see if they approach us and be like, give us your tithings.
I'm sure we look just like local peasants.
We may not fit in.
Just put a sack over ourselves and...
One other thing that Constantina notices on the other side of the crowd, kind of pretty far away from the Deluge trio, is that you see a similar procession of two men in watery blue and green robes. And similar to the Deluge, they have skin plants, although their skin plants are more green and blue. And they sort of flow more peacefully, sort of like a sea or a sky across their face. So, and these aren't like full face colors. These are like glyphs that color shifts through.
Okay. So they're definitely more peaceful. So I'll point that out to you. Look, over there.
Ah, that is the Waterbringers.
Ah,
Those are the people we're looking for.
Those
yes.
are.
Looks like we have two groups to speak to.
Our mission would dictate that we approach them.
We should start with them. The others can wait.
So, Enforcer Rashida, I'm curious. I'm going to pull her aside.
Yeah.
As I get her aside from these three, I can see the value in overselling water, earning an income. These are things that make complete and utter sense to me. I'm confused as to how they're getting the water. Have you investigated this? Because it seems to me if there's a way for them to get water, and I don't mean just the water bringers, but this secondary group, this deluge, if both groups are getting water from somewhere and it's not being factioned out of the Emperor's will in thin air, it sounds to me like one of the desalinization plants has been possibly taken over. Is this something you've looked into?
This is a very real and good possibility. I unfortunately don't have the manpower to conclude these investigations.
Are you the only enforcer for the
Yes.
entire planet?
For this village, just for this village. So, I mean, we're territorially assigned, I don't have any backup from anywhere. That was, the desperate nature of my request to the Veronius dynasty and why you are here today.
And so you have desalinization plants that are specific to this village.
Well, we had desalinization machines within plants. Some of them have disappeared, some of them have broken down, and some of them still run, but very limited.
But are specifically dedicated to
The fishing
this town.
village, yeah.
Yes, the town
So
of Morncliffe.
our priority is to feed and water the village, and from there, we give what we can to the pilgrims.
Is there any export here that keeps the value of the fishing village pertinent?
No, the fishing village doesn't export anything. It does receive, some limited supplies from the ecclesiarchy, but of course that's dried up since the rift.
So
we're just trying to stay afloat.
So other than its worship of the Emperor's cult, or cult of the Emperor, this village strictly is set to be self-sufficient. It takes nothing and makes nothing and gives only prayer.
Right. Well, it's at the foot of this mountain, which, as you notice, is the 5th largest statue of Tigranus on the entire planet. And so a lot of people do visit this mountain. At least they used to. That's why the fishing village exists. It grew out of supporting the pilgrims that came to pilgrimage here to visit.
So we are at the Emperor's will. This village is at the Emperor's will to feed the pilgrims.
We do what we can, but obviously, without the fisher folk, we wouldn't have any fish to give anyone. So we prioritize feeding them first.
Very good.
Yeah, but we're not an agricultural center, and we've never really been able to sustain the type of population that we're now seeing.
Do we know what the approximate population is? Do we have that in our briefing?
Of the tent city?
Of kind of
the recorded population is 2 billion of the planet.
No, the city.
The city.
The shanty town and the interior denizens.
Right. Yeah. There's no census. It's just crowds and crowds of people. I mean, it's.
Is the mob? Does it look like in the hundreds or in the thousands?
Yeah, in the thousands
or more. Okay, so it's big.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, a city of 50 homes feeding probably 2,000 or 3,000 people.
It's like an Ohio State game.
Sure,
Right.
just like an Ohio State game. That's what also.
Buckeye game.
Yeah. So.
That was the first thing DS45 thought also.
Yeah. I said, this is just like Ohio.
We use this as a standard. You
Yeah.
measure all things population.
Yeah,
It's the Ohio State game versus.
It's the Ohio standard.
We're looking
it's-
at 2 to 3 Ohio's.
Go Buckeyes!
Yeah.
This is a shout out to you, Ohio.
So, keep in mind that you guys don't have like comm links or cell phones or an easy way to communicate once you're outside of your kilometer radius, and then that requires somebody else having communications equipment, which
Well, I've got this.
Vox speed. You have
Vox
Vox speed.
speed.
Yeah.
So
So
now, does it allow me to connect to the rest of the group and communicate with them?
you
or
can
no?
communicate to anyone that has a Vox radio, or like Rashida has one in her house.
Okay.
So you could communicate up to a kilometer to that radio,
Okay.
and it's So
Do we know
there's probably
that?
one on the ship.
Yeah, we would
yeah.
know that.
It's a pretty common.
It's portable though.
Hers is not.
Hers is not. Okay.
But his is an earpiece. But
Okay.
hers is like this big old, archaic board type.
And there was not another one on the ship, correct?
I have one
The
too.
ship has one built in.
Built in. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm
Also
just.
not portable.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so it would be something to think of and ask. If we don't have it.
Right.
So I'll ask. Well, actually, sorry. Where were we at in the scene?
So we're standing at the wall.
Yeah.
People are, night is falling or has basically begun to fall. Yeah, it's getting dark. People are gathering up whatever fish heads and tentacles are left, and starting to disperse to go back into the shantytown. So most of the lights are just fires from
Is there a
people.
smell here? Because
Oh, yeah.
we're chumming the natives.
The
right?
natives smell worse than the fish, because you got to realize these guys take fish showers every day.
Yeah.
They don't take real showers ever, so they just come in here and they stand and they so they smell worse than the fish by a good measure. Yeah, you with your senses probably pick that up more than the rest.
Nothing attractive.
So then I'll ask
Rashida?
Rashida, thank you. I'll ask. Do you have another one of these colonies? I can't remember the name of these
Vox
things.
speed.
Yeah,
Vox
Vox
speed.
He
Yeah.
points at his ear.
Yeah, I don't.
Unfortunately, not.
Well, damn.
Okay.
So well, and that's
Yeah.
sort of part of it is if you don't have what you need to keep in communication, splitting up is a little bit more dire of a prospect. But you have two groups of interests.
So I'll say, if we do split up, I believe a single bolter shot in the air, or double bolter shot in the air, would be significant enough to send a warning across.
Nobody in town has a bolter that you've seen. In fact, you haven't seen any ranged weapons. I mean, you've seen, almost all the people outside the wall carry some sort of weapon, whether it's like a weird welded together, series of fishing implements and hooks, or if it's just a rod.
You said this is outside?
Yeah. So
outside.
They just
everyone
use
outside
whatever.
is armed with something.
Yeah.
If we were to see someone walking around that clearly wasn't in service to the Emperor in some formal fashion, carrying a bolt gun or even a bolt pistol, that matter, I mean, that would be a cause for question. Like, where'd you get that?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Because really, only people in the Emperor's army are
If
going to have those.
Right.
unless
Bolt weapons are Adeptus Astartes and Sisters of Battle.
So you've either scavenged it, and it should be returned to the Imperium.
So they're seeing, and even your weapons are weapons that may be handed down, from person to person or marine to marine, and so you might have on a weapon inscriptions of past battle deeds that have been performed with that weapon, that you haven't even seen yet, so the weapons, like the ships, are in some cases older than the people carrying them. So if you found a bolt gun, that would be something you might say, hey, we need to recover this. See, you could read the inscription and see who it belonged to, possibly, if it was a bolt gun of some renown.
Like an Angelus bolt gun.
Yeah, like see what battles it's been a part of.
I don't know what that is, but I want one.
So Rashida says, yeah, if you'd like to follow the Waterbringers at the Deluge tonight, I can show you how to get out of town. Otherwise, I can lead you to an empty house, and you could head out in the morning and canvass the people outside of the shantytown.
They're here now.
There is no need to rest.
Emperors will be done.
The sooner we can take care of any heretics.
What they're trying to say, Enforcer Rashida, is, can you show us the tunnel out now?
Certainly. Please follow me. So, yeah,
I
she
knew I had a purpose. Interpreter.
walks along the wall.
Sneaking around, all this sneaking around.
Yeah, so she leads you guys down the wall a good ways, about a 10-minute walk from where any people were gathered, and there's a pretty heavily bolted door. Small for you.
So this isn't like a gate that just would open up and go out.
No.
Okay, it's completely sealed. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So they don't want anybody coming in. It's not a gate. People don't regularly go through and then come back in.
I'm going to ask Rashida as we're kind of going through these tunnels, say, is there a process in place that would allow someone that lives in the shantytown to rise in stature to become a resident of the city?
No, citizenry here is dictated purely by lineage. You needed to be a fisherman of this town before you were born to live in this town now. You had to be born a fisherman to be a fisherman. Yeah, it's very limited access here.
Before we go out, I'd like to run some calculations on possible dangers and ways to evade them. So I don't know if was that like a
Well, yeah, make a tech roll.
tech roll.
Like indigenous threats, that we may not be thinking about if we
Yeah,
wander
yeah.
outside the walls? Yeah, okay.
Okay.
We see where these bees run.
I just look at the wall itself. The wall's got to be taller than 10 feet.
Right, I'm thinking 10
Because it's
feet.
10, I mean, me with no superior skills, me personally, I can get over a 10-foot
Yeah,
wall.
Scale a 10-foot wall
yeah.
pretty easy.
And if
maybe
it's-
more like 10 meters.
So I
Yeah,
got-
there we go.
Oh,
30-foot
there we
wall.
go.
There we go.
That would be a
different.
little more realistic.
Because that's a whole lot of wall
Yeah.
for no one guarding it.
right.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, I'm good with that. Let's
Yeah, we
let's
try to
raise the
keep
wall.
kangaroos out
Yeah.
of the backyard.
Yeah, when you can basically stand on somebody's shoulders and reach the top of the wall, then
Mhm.
you're not protecting nothing. So,
Space kangaroos.
So I got a 5 icons and then a 6 on my wrath die.
oh,
Or,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
Nice.
interesting. So,
You crackle with energy.
I'm thinking so hard right now, you guys. Using all my little processors.
So yeah, you calculate that Octavian alone has the best chance of pursuing these guys to without being noticed, and that yields the best results of locating their shrines.
Okay, and then so do you have like a commander, lieutenant? Like, what's your title?
I'm a scout.
Is it like Scout Octavian would be appropriate?
Just
Octavian.
just like that.
Scout Octavian, a suggestion. After running the calculations for the best net successes, I believe that you should alone approach the Deluge, and we will provide a backup support.
I thought we were approaching the water seekers instead.
We're doing both.
We should start with the water seekers.
I mean, you're here to
It
investigate
was
the
our
Waterbringers.
primary mission.
Yeah, the Deluge right now
Did I
are
misunderstand what you said then? I thought you
well.
said...
I said that they're, they had a lot of red flags, and those red flags were that they were, very healthy, and that they were they had plenty of water, and that they were given a wide berth.
We basically got two parties being represented out here that have emerged in the crowd. We've got these guys that are maybe like bullies, like bad news, but at the same time, we've also got the guys that were kind of here to kind of chase down.
Okay, so...
And there's certainly other cults. There's a lot of other skin plants, but there's not anybody that really stands out to this.
Everyone's rocking a skin plant.
Yeah. There's a lot of.
Everyone's got a tramp stamp.
Yeah, it's like it's the equivalent of going to like Jamaica or Mexico and getting your hair beaded, only it's permanent.
Only it's permanent.
But you know how when you go somewhere,
It's like polyester. Right?
No, Josh, I haven't done that. I'm not sure what that would be like.
I want
to see Josh with the hair beads.
In the Gulf Coast, everybody goes on spring break and they go down to Mexico and then they all come back with hair beads.
Get the white beads in. Yeah.
So that's what it is. It's sort of like a pilgrimage souvenir.
Beaded dreadlocks. We really had a good time there.
He's shaking his.
Correction, Scout Octavian. This unit has made a miserable, foul error in her processing.
Octavian will suffice.
Correction. If we do end up needing to speak with the Deluge, that is the best action.
Why?
Your stature is most similar to them and would draw the least attention. Additionally, there is a chance they would respect your credence.
So you want me to approach the Deluge?
In the event that we need to, that would be the best course of action.
In the event that we need to. I understand. Am I also to understand that I'm going alone? Not that that's a problem.
Isn't that in part of your title? Scout?
I fear nothing.
I will go with you.
I thought DS45 just said it would be better if he went alone.
In the event that we need to approach the Deluge, that would be the best course of action. In regard to the Waterbringers, I believe that our full party approaching would be acceptable.
Yep, that's my feeling too.
So what are we doing first?
We should go to the Waterbringers.
We should do our primary mission.
I agree.
And little doors or like a lock on it.
So yeah, you're on the other side of the tunnel. She opens the door leading out to the shantytown from the inside and says, well, I'll be back at the door tomorrow morning just to make sure you guys aren't ready to be let back in, but otherwise I might have trouble. Just try to be back here for the morning, or I'll check back again at feeding time.
Understood.
That should be sufficient.
So basically, like she's saying, I'll check morning and feeding time. If you guys end up out there a few days, then that's your time to catch the door back inside.
It's not gonna be this like on call, someone at the door we just rap on and they slide the thing over. Okay.
No, she doesn't have that kind of manpower. No.
Okay, and the door, is it like an actual hinge door?
It's like a big bolted, reinforced.
And when she opens it, since it's feeding time now, do we get?
Well, this is like further down. You basically opened up to like this little alley behind.
This is away from the chumming.
Yeah. So people, it's not a completely hidden tunnel, but it's not really something people from the outside have the means to open. It's pretty safe.
We're not like the Beatles getting out the limo. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Nobody's breaking through that door with their fishhook swords.
Okay. They swing hooks, fish hooks online.
Those suckers hurt, okay? It's something to be worried about.
It's like, ow!
What I want to know is, where are all the pilgrims getting the fish stuff?
Yeah,
are they stealing it from inside?
They're probably stealing it or making it
trade
makeshift stuff.
Yeah. Well, they can. They can't really get inside to trade, but yeah. So there's probably some contacts that get stuff in and out.
And probably not every settlement is fortified like this. So maybe they're doing trade with other places that are nearby.
It wasn't always fortified. There's a lot of garbage and stuff that got exported out of the city before the walls were put up. So there was.
I feel like the rift changed a lot of things going on in the city. Yeah. Okay, so if nobody else goes first, then this unit surely will.
If you're looking at the situation, if the pilgrims have stuff to trade, if they have the ability to trade, then they wouldn't be standing in line for chum.
Right.
Yeah, and they're they're in different states. Like you'll kind of see as you exit from the tunnel right now. So
what I'm looking for is, I know they've got the buckets of like fish parts and fish heads. Are they also delivering water of any amount to these people?
You didn't see any water being delivered during feeding time, but Rashida did say that they're sharing their water, but it's dependent on
what they can give.
the machine spirits of the desalinization plants within the city. I mean, the machines within the city. They're not plants. They're just...
They haven't been taught how to boil water or anything.
Yeah, no,
Quest for fire.
whatever.
It's all ocean water,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Well,
not,
yeah, so you're boiling and
Oh,
distilling
yeah.
them.
Okay, you're all right.
Yeah.
Which doesn't help you. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I believe that we exit. Yeah.
I look at the door. Does it look like something we could break down if we needed to? If we had to like run, if we had to fall back?
You mean maybe run through it, or?
Yeah. Kick down.
Possible to roll
you
high
know,
up
you
and
wonder.
run through it.
You do have 3 frag grenades, so you're not sure it would do some damage to the door, but you're not sure that it would break it in too easily.
We know that there won't
So-
be anybody on the other side to the
Yeah,
wall.
you guys are pretty much. You need to operate as if you're on your own for now. Yeah, and even if you could get into the city, then it does. There's like
Okay.
one enforcer in there.
There's no hood.
It could
We can take this place over and become the new overlords.
Okay.
Hey, that
All
sounds like
that sounds a
It
little
is.
radical.
It is. Sorry. Got a
There's
moment.
a part of me that says that sounds right, but
Flaws of my previously human life.
Well, that's what rogue traders do. They literally go and conquer places in the name of the Empire. And I mean, they basically plant the flag of the Imperium, and then they gain the ability to trade with that place, and they, negotiate with them and set up governors. And, like, that's what they do. Yeah. They're
Follow me, guys.
conquistadors in a sense. Yeah.
These are my people.
But yeah, this has already happened. That happened in the past. In fact, the person that the rogue trader that originally came here's last name was Gilead, and that's what the system's named after, is the trader that conquered and brought this system into the fold.
How does Tigranus fit into this?
So he was the chapter master. The absolvers were in this region.
Okay.
They roam around. Their home planets aren't here, but they were here in force when the Great Rift occurred.
Okay.
And so they spearheaded the escape attempt, and they
Gotcha.
haven't been seen since.
Okay.
So all of their lieutenants and their sergeants are still here, operating without their
I wonder if those
upper leadership.
well-fed ones are deserters.
Yeah, you would probably be able to assume that they're they don't have any of like the markings of the implants you would have.
Okay.
I think the plan is that we're gonna, once we're through the door, we're
We'll get
moving
there.
towards the.
The
Waterbringers.
The
Water
Waterbringers.
Just
All right.
pretty
You're
much-
moving back towards the crowd, trying
We're
to
just
find water
beelining
bringers.
it to them, probably.
Right.
I'm guessing with our attire, we probably stand out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You will absolutely stand out, and in different ways. So, like, some people will see, the presence of a sister of battle on in the shanty town as all the proof they need that the saint is real.
It's all sorts
Just
of
being here is enough to prove that that's a real saint. They don't really know the intricacies of what you're here for.
Okay.
So other people, might not trust you guys, or might be scared of interacting with you and kind of.
It is good to have a battle system around. That's
Yeah.
good PR.
Yeah.
Oh, one thing that I definitely would have asked is more about the identity of the saint, and if Rashida had anything, like, who are they before they were a saint?
So the saint has been rumors of the saint have circulated for about a year. She's known as Saint Martica, and she's just a 40-year-old woman, or a 40
Self-proclaimed saint.
middle-aged
Yes.
woman who one day claimed sainthood and started claiming that she had the light of the emperor.
And she's a pilgrim.
Yeah,
Okay.
Saint Martica?
Martica. Yeah.
It's a good question. It's waterbringers.
Okay, yeah, so we finally exit the door.
So with that, we will find out what's in the shanty town next time.
No.
okay. Oh boy! All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, thank you, Josh.
Thank you. It's cool.
Thank you for listening to another NCRP Productions podcast. To stay on top of everything we're doing, you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and like us on Facebook, all at NCRP Productions. You can show your support and help us continue to produce content by joining our Patreon. We offer additional podcasts like our B-sides, and have GM materials, maps, and other fun things you can discover over time. You can find our podcasts on YouTube, Anchor, Spotify, Apple, Google, and many other fine podcast sites. Just look for us at NCRP Productions. We value your thoughts, so please don't hesitate to leave us feedback or comments. And if you would like to contact us directly, you can email us at ncrpproductions@gmail.com.